This is Bullets with AWR Hawkins, a Breitbart.com podcast. Here he is, the host of the podcast, AWR Hawkins.
Folks, welcome to Bullets with AWR Hawkins, a Breitbart News podcast focused on guns, gun rights, the Second Amendment. You know, we sum them up every week here, those things under the banner of freedom. That's because an armed citizen is a free citizen. So glad that you're with me. For any of you who are first-time listeners, why would you say an armed citizen is a free citizen? Let me throw it out. There was a guy in Holy Hill, Florida, over the weekend who was closing up shop about 11:50 at night, just before midnight. He stepped out of the rear door or the side door of the building and was going to lock it up and leave. A guy starts hitting him with a club. The guy hitting him is wearing a clown mask. He's out there waiting for him. Starts hitting him with the club and then stabbing at him with scissors. Now, in a situation where that pizza store employee is unarmed, he has to take that. I mean, he fends it off as best he can, but he has to endure being beaten with that club and stabbed with those scissors. But in a country where he can be armed, well, he expresses his freedom by protecting his chief property, which is his life. And that's what he did. The employee shot the guy 4 or 5 times at point blank range, and guess what? Ball game. It's over. It's over. The guy in the clown mask is done. He's toast. And that's what he gets. Folks, you can't wait outside somebody's business and attack them. You just can't do it. Not in a country of free people. Because free men and women can defend their lives just as that pizza employee did. I love that story. How much do I love it? I love it so much I opened up the podcast with it. I never cover Second Amendment in action stories to start with, but that story is on the mark, and it's brought to you by the Second Amendment. I love it. I love it, folks. Hope you're having a great week. I hope your Memorial Day weekend was great. Thank you. And I know they're not here to hear me because they paid with their lives, but I can't say enough thank you to all those who paid the price for our freedom. You really can't say enough for those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. And what a wonderful day Memorial Day is under a president like Trump who loves our military. So to those of you who are in families where people have given the ultimate sacrifice, thank you. That's all. Thank you. All right, folks, we had a lot of news this week. Had a lot of news, and a lot of it was good. You know, some of it wasn't supposed to be good, but it ended up that way. The situation with David Hogg. He does the Publix grocers boycott. You know, David Hogg steps in. He's all mad because Publix gave money to Adam Putnam, who is a Florida gubernatorial candidate who is pro-gun. So David Hogg, who is the Parkland High School gun control activist, he does a boycott. And that includes a quote-unquote die-in. Die-in? What that means is 17 people lay in the aisle in Publix grocers, blocking the aisle where customers can't walk through. But there's 17 of them because of the 17 deaths at Parkland, right? So in other words, because of that, you go to a private business or you go to a business and you block customers from doing business. I don't know how that's going to benefit you. But Hogg apparently thought this would benefit him. And in the short term, it appeared it did because Publix announced that they would no longer donate to Adam Putnam. But guess what? They said, to be fair, they also won't donate to Democrat candidates. And they won't matter of fact, they won't do any donations that are deemed political. So what ends up happening is David Hogg does this protest trying to hurt a GOP candidate. He actually ends up hurting funding for same-sex marriage and abortion. I mean, if these are the protests he's going to keep doing, if he's going to be able to take money from abortion, if he can do that, please, 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 Mr. Hogg, have another protest. The kid's out of control. He's out of control. Everyone knows he's out of control, everyone but him. He's feeding on his own ego, and he's stepping on himself. All right, that's the bottom line. He's tripping all over himself. So he holds the protest, and guess what? Doesn't work out so good. So let's move on. We had an incident this week that was not good. A shooting at Noblesville West Middle School. Not a good incident. Two people harmed. The part of this incident that deserves to be covered is that a science teacher, Jason Seaman, saved an untold number of lives because he charged the gunman, knocking the gun out of his hand, tackling the gunman. The problem is, as he charged him, he was shot 3 times. Now, he underwent surgery. After which his mother said he was doing well. But look, folks, this highlights again, why does Jason Seaman have to charge this guy? First off, look, a hero first class. He's a hero first class for risking his life, charging this guy. But my question is, why does he have to do this? Why can't Jason Seaman pull out a gun and drop the attacker on the spot? Why is it that the pizza employee gets to shoot the guy who's trying to kill him, but Jason Seaman is denied that ability? Why is that? There's no reason someone goes, well, just guns don't go good in school. We don't need guns in school. The bad guys have guns in school, you idiot. Bad guys have guns in school because they know teachers can't shoot back. Fix it. It's ridiculous that a teacher has to risk his or her life to stop some angry little guy who either couldn't get a date or couldn't get accepted into the club he wanted to be in or couldn't make the football team or whatever it is. It's ridiculous that when that guy comes in, whether it's Noblesville or Santa Fe or Sandy Hook, when that guy comes in, a teacher has to risk his or her life. It's ridiculous. You remember the principal at Sandy Hook, Dawn Hawkspring? Or it may have been Hawksprung. I'll guarantee you, I'm not trying to mispronounce her name because the woman was a hero. She charged that gunman. Charged him. She died doing it. But trying to protect kids. Now here's my question. Why do we put them in this situation? You know, when these shootings, when they occur, the left can't wait. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to shut down gun shows. We're going to have universal background checks, and you ain't getting no more of them 15-round magazines. So stupid. None of that would stop a school shooting. Remember the Santa Fe shooting? Guy killed 10 with a revolver and a shotgun. None of that gun control would stop it. But you know what would stop it? If coming out of Noblesville, the report was, well, we had an attacker wander into the classroom this morning. He pulled his gun, and before he could get his finger on the trigger, the science teacher put 2 in his head and 1 in his side, and, well, he expired right there on the floor. That was it. You let that scenario happen once, maybe twice, and these Looney Tunes will find another target to hit because they don't want to be shot at. They're coming in a situation so many times where they feel bullied and whatever else they feel. And having the gun with them and being able to do what they do makes them enjoy a little bit of power for a change. Well, guess what? Take it away from them. Take the power away. How? Make sure that teacher has a Glock 43 or a Glock 26. Make sure they have some good self-defense rounds that expand well. And teach them how to put those rounds on target. Won't need to hit him but 2 or 3 times and it's over. And to be honest with you, hit him in the right spot once, it's over. That's it. This living in fear, this teachers having to risk their lives, it's ridiculous. When we live in a land like America, where we have a Second Amendment, I know you think I'm stupid or you think I'm simple. You're so simple, you can't think things through. You just so stuck on them 4 words, shall not be infringed. That's it. I am stuck on those 4 words. In our school systems run against the spirit of that constantly by forcing these teachers to spend their days in school unarmed. A lot of you guys I call out on a regular basis. Cal, Jody, different folks. You have family members who do school teaching. You know what it's like. Your family members spend their day, and in some cases you guys spend your day. In a school, you might have your pistol in the car where it's legal. But I mean, what are you going to do if someone walks in your classroom? Hold on a minute, don't shoot. I got to go out to my car and get something. I'll be right back. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. And it's ridiculous that Jason Seaman was in a situation where he had to risk his life when what he could have done is reached in a drawer, fixed everything. It would have taken him about, you figure 5 seconds, been over. So I praise him for his courage, but I shame the school district, the state leaders for their lack of courage and for the way they keep him trapped. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Folks, while we're talking about this, here's something that should turn your stomach. Obama officials emailed each other after the Sandy Hook attack. I don't mean days and weeks and years after. I mean within 48 hours they were emailing about how they could spin it into a gun control push. Now, listen to what I'm going to say. The victims of the attack had not even been buried. Let it soak in. The victims of the attack had not even been buried. And these Obama officials are emailing of how they can best spin the attack to secure gun control. The two doing it, Rahm Emanuel, Arnie Duncan. These are the worst of the worst, the low of the low. This is what the Democrats give you. The Democrats complain. What do? They complain that Republicans are dirty, filthy people because they give folks tax breaks. You want dirty and filthy? Rahm Emanuel and Arnie Duncan are emailing each other within 48 hours of that shooting, working on how they can best spin the attack for gun control. Now look, got a guy named Eric Swalwell. He's a representative. He's pushing an assault weapons buyback. So if you have an AR-15, the government would give you what they deem to be a fair price for it and take it off your hands. Oh, no, it's not voluntary. No, it will be a mandated buyback. And if you do not comply, there will be criminal prosecution. This is not confiscation. This is not, the word confiscation is not in there. This is how Democrats work. See, they pass a law that says you do this or else. And they never mention the word confiscation. So then they argue, hey, it's not confiscation. It is confiscation. It's a forced buyback. And if you don't comply with it, you'll be prosecuted. Does the word confiscation have to appear in that for you to figure out what it is? Swalwell is a very arrogant human. He's a very arrogant human. He's a Democrat from California. He was on Tucker Carlson. Carlson was talking to him and saying, you know, what even makes you think people would comply with this? And then that's when he explained, well, if they don't comply, they're going to get prosecuted. And then he also said, but the American people are law-abiding. So if we can pass the law, they'll do it. Now, see what he's doing is he's presupposing that the American people are sheep. And he's also presupposing that because he makes something legal, that also makes it moral. Sorry about your luck, Rep. Swalwell. Sorry about your luck. But your whole scheme is immoral. What we've stressed on here so many times, you really can't go to it enough. Because our rights are God-given, an assault on those rights, like Swalwell's assault, it's immoral. I know that word doesn't get used a lot today, but that's what it is. It's not just wrong in a legal sense. It's wrong in a moral sense. It goes against the fixed order of things. So here's the deal, Swalwell. Sorry about your luck. We won't be doing it. Just wanted you to know. Moving on. We had a great story out of California. California Rifle and Pistol Association hosted a church security seminar. Now, I know You wouldn't think it'd be in California, but that's where they do it. And they're teaching people. They're teaching people about staying safe in church, forming security teams. If you're on the security team during prayer, you don't bow your head, close your eyes. You're watching. They also teach you this. If you don't have someone in your church with a gun, you're behind the curve. If you don't have people in your church setting in strategic positions with a firearm, then it's only a matter of time. That's what they're teaching. That doesn't mean everybody in church should be armed. Just like in school, when people push for armed teacher, they're not saying every teacher must be armed. They're saying those teachers who wish to be armed, who are proficient at arms, those teachers should be armed. Same situation in this church. Find those folks who are proficient with firearms, who are comfortable with firearms, who carry firearms daily, concealed carry or otherwise. Put together a church security team that, in compliance with your state laws, put one together. So that when some animal comes in there, like that animal that attacked Sutherland Springs in Texas on November 5th, 2017, when that animal comes in with his mask on, thinking that this is his moment in the sun. This is his moment where he gets to be in control. But when he comes in, boom, 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 just drop him. Drop him on the spot. And take him outside, call the police, tell them we got a body on the front steps. It's the body of the attacker who just came in here to do harm, but he did not succeed. What a beautiful scenario that would have been if we had had that in Sutherland Springs instead of what we had. And so that's what's happening with this church security seminar. That's a great deal, a great deal. Faith is good, but faith in a gun on a Sunday, that's a better way to go. That's what they're teaching you. Now, folks, Oscar Muniz, the United Airlines CEO, he's out now saying he has no regrets with cutting ties with the NRA, that doing so was personal. So you'll remember United Airlines was one of the numerous companies that cut ties with the NRA after celebrities and high school students said it was the NRA's fault that Parkland school shooting happened. I mean, how's that the NRA's fault? Seriously. NRA doesn't even make guns. How's it their fault? They do defend the Second Amendment. How in the world is it their fault? This CEO of United Airlines is so arrogant. He was called out in a board meeting, an annual meeting. He was called out for having made the decision. And instead of just being honest, go, you know what, I screwed up. He goes, you know what? Good decision. It was personal for me. No regrets. Yeah, whatever. United Airlines. Folks, I'm going to tell you real quick about the Henry rifle. The Henry 4570 lever action. Maybe one of the greatest firearms I've ever held in my life, ever shot. When you think about a lever action firearm, I don't know how to word this without it sounding negative. I don't really think about a lever action and think about refinement. But I'm going to tell you, a Henry 4570 all-weather rifle is unbelievably refined. Unbelievably. I've been shooting one off and on for the last month and a half. What a great firearm. And I'm just throwing it out to you. A 4570 is also a tremendous brush gun for hunting. And if you hunt somewhere where there's thick brush, you're hunting pigs or deer, that 4570 doesn't care about that brush. It's going to blow right through it. And when it hits that pig or that deer, it's ball game. And I'm just throwing that out to you. I did some reviewing on that gun this last week, and it's on my mind. I'm going to go shoot it. I'm going to go shoot it this week in Texas, and absolutely love the gun. So I'm just throwing it out to you. If some of you out there, every now and then, you guys will email me, and you're usually emailing me about which concealed carry weapon to acquire for this application or that application. If any of you buy long guns, and you really like long guns, look into the Henry 4570 all-weather. Look into it. It's an expensive firearm. I mean, it's a $1,000 firearm. It holds 5 rounds if you count the one in the chamber. I just love that 45-70 round, and I love the Henry. When you pick that gun up, you can tell it's refined. You can tell this wasn't something they came up with overnight. This gun is tight. The trigger is smooth. It is beautiful. Folks, you're listening to Bullets with AWR Hawkins. We'll be back right after this.
Breitbart News Daily with Alex Marlowe.
Jeannie in Pennsylvania.
I think we've gotten away from what we really hired him to do, which is draining the swamp. If you look at the real picture of draining a swamp, you go in and you take all the water out of it. What does it leave? It leaves the gunk. He cannot get rid of the gunk. We have to get rid of the gunk. Everything he's doing, he's lowering the water so we can see who needs to go. The only way they can go is if we vote them out.
Breitbart News Daily. Weekdays at 6 a.m. Eastern on SiriusXM Patriot 125.
This is Bullets with AWR Hawkins, a Breitbart.com podcast. Here once again is AWR Hawkins.
Folks, welcome to Bullets with AWR Hawkins, a Breitbart News podcast focused on guns, gun rights, the Second Amendment. Fortunate to have with us today Morgan Sachs, who is with the March for Our Rights. And that's March, the number 4, Our Rights. They're going to have marches around the nation on July 7th, standing up for gun rights, for the Second Amendment, and it's going to be refreshing. Anyway, Morgan has been kind enough to join us today to explain this a little bit. So, Morgan, thanks for making time to be with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, why don't you explain to us how was the idea for this march born? What is the impetus behind it? What's the support base for it? Is it purely grassroots? Those types of things. Give us a little overview.
Well, it kind of started through social media. Several students and myself were all kind of discussing what had been going on with other students with gun control and how we disagreed with it. And we were just talking about how there needed to be a march for students like us. And we were like, well, why don't we start it ourselves rather than just waiting for it to come along? And it just formed on its own through social media. We were just talking through Facebook, and it just became this big movement before our eyes. And now this march is entirely student-led. And we're just promoting our own Second Amendment rights and how there's just this quiet student-led movement and students who just are not for gun control. They want to protect their Second Amendment rights. Right. And the media isn't showing that. No,
the establishment media is horrid. Here's my question. When you say student-led, do you mean collegiate student-led, collegiate and high school student-led? Like, what age groups will we see in this march as far as the people who are putting it together? What age groups are putting this together?
Well, I just graduated college, but the rest of the students, like the executive director, Zena, she's 19 years old. The director for Chicago, he's in high school. A lot of them are just barely in college or in high school.
So it's going to be, that's good though. It's broad-based. That's pretty awesome.
Yes.
Now, when I know people hate to give this, but when you look at the type of participation that you anticipate, I know they recently had the Stand Up for the Second, and that's completely different than what you're doing, but they had people from hundreds of schools who pledged to do a walkout at a certain time in the day for the Second Amendment. What type of participation are you anticipating with this march? I mean, how many cities do you anticipate marches taking place in? How many participants, or do you have a feel for that yet?
We have over 25 cities nationwide. We have hundreds and hundreds of participants. I know right now in DC, we have over 500 people RSVP'd, and that's obviously going to be growing as time continues. And we have more interest for people wanting to start their own march in their own cities, and it's just continuously growing.
Right. Now, what's your background? Like, I'm always curious. What is it that makes Morgan so focused on the value of the Second Amendment? Because I love what you're doing. I love it. But
Thank you.
How did you get here? Like, how does a recent college graduate have this passion for the Second Amendment?
Well, my father is law enforcement. My grandfather is law enforcement. And, being a new college graduate and being like a just young woman, I find this particular issue for young women in particular such a very important issue, because how is someone my age going to protect themselves? It's just a fact. Women can't protect themselves the same way that men can. I think it's incredibly important that women need to arm themselves, and I think campus carry is an incredibly important thing as well.
Is your main theme going to be Second Amendment, period, or will there be sub-themes like you're saying? We're going to also focus on campus carry, we're going to do this, do that, or will you all stay just mainly Second Amendment?
Mainly Second Amendment, but also promoting presence of armed campus security, promoting school safety, such as with Parkland.
Right.
Which that needs to be there.
What you said is so important. I write every day at Breitbart on almost every day on a self-defense use of a gun, but at least 4 to 5 times a week. That's one of the many stories I write. And it's amazing how many times a woman by herself is attacked or is trapped by attackers, and she gets out of that situation not with pepper spray, not with a fork or a baseball bat, but with a handgun. And that's how she gets out of that situation. And I think people reject reality when they don't understand the importance of a woman being armed. An armed woman can protect not only her life, but her dignity. And I think people overlook that quite often.
Yeah, you're entirely right.
And so tell me this. You say your father's in law enforcement. What's your father think about what you're doing?
He loves it. He's actually taking me shooting this weekend. He got me for my birthday. He told me that he was going to pay for me to get my concealed carry, because I just had my birthday last week. And I love that my dad loves it. It's great. That's
awesome. Now listen, Morgan, last question. Let's say some of our listeners want to get involved in March for Our Rights. What do they do? How do they get involved? How do they put their name on the list to say, I'll be in this city taking part with you? How do they do that?
Well, our website is M4, OR.org, so marchforourrights.org. And our Instagram is March4 Our Rights, and our Instagram is March for Rights Official. And our Facebook is March4 Our Rights.
That's awesome. Listen, this is what we need. Grassroots, people who love the Second Amendment. And you hear Morgan's passion. This is what we need. Let's rally behind her. Go to the websites, go to Twitter, go to Instagram, go to the Facebook, and get involved. It's time for us to make some noise in the right way and support these God-given liberties, these God-given freedoms. And folks, you're listening to Bullets with AWR Hawkins. We're going to be back after this, but before we take our break, we want to say again, thank you, Morgan, for making time to be with us.
Thank you.
Breitbart News Tonight with Joel Pollack and Rebecca Mansour.
A lot of people not knowing what action they could or should take to make the difference. What I do is try to turn people on to sites like Breitbart, people who are writing and publishing the truth so that people will get educated. But, you kind of can't blame productive members of society who are kind of confused, perplexed as to what do we do to take this government back.
Sirius XM Patriot, Channel 125. This is Bullets with AWR Hawkins, a Breitbart.com podcast. Here once again is AWR Hawkins.
Welcome back to Bullets with AWR Hawkins, folks. Morgan was inspiring, right? Can we at least say that? Golly. I mean, her dad's got to be proud. And to hear her passion for the Second Amendment, just awesome. March for Our Rights, July 7th. Get on the different social media outlets she spoke of and find out more and sign up and be involved. It sounds like an awesome opportunity for us to stand up and counter the kinds of stuff that Hogg and other people are doing. All right. We had a woman this week, people in Nashville, in a part of Nashville, she was driving late at night. They bumped her car. There were 4 suspects or 3 suspects in the car. I can't remember the figure, but they bumped her car trying to get her to stop. And what they were going to do is try to take her vehicle. Instead of stopping, she sped up and went to her son's home. She knows her son is a gun owner. She pulls up behind his home honking the horn, honking like crazy. The suspects are right behind her. Her son comes out. He says the suspects fired at him first. All right, whatever. But he puts it on them. He starts shooting. They flee the scene. Folks, this story is brought to you by the Second Amendment. I love it. That woman fled to the security of her gun-owning son. Those guys had her. If she would have stopped, they had her. They had her. But instead of stopping, she went to her son's house. And her son was ready. That's what you have to love. We had a gunman in Oklahoma City this week. He walked into a restaurant, shot a couple of people. He walks out. He's confronted by an armed citizen who shoots him and kills him. Kaboom! This story is brought to you by the Second Amendment. It doesn't get any clearer than this. These stories, including the one I began the podcast with the pizza store employee, these stories highlight the importance of being armed. Now, I know I'm not going to say your names because some of you may not want everybody to know because of what you do for a living and such, but I know you people, numerous of you stay armed at all times. I'm just telling you, I think that's the only way you can live in this world. Not being paranoid, but being prepared. You just have to be. Who thinks that they're going to go to the pizza store and they're locking it up at night and someone's going to start hitting them with a club, stabbing at them with scissors? Who thinks that? Who thinks someone bumped into me, they don't want to exchange insurance cards, they want to carjack my car? Who thinks that? Who thinks I'm going to go sit down in the restaurant and have a little dinner, and while I'm sitting here, some idiot's going to come in and start shooting? Who thinks that? My thing is this: you've got to think it. I've got to think it. Not paranoid, but I got to think of the possibilities so I can be prepared. Is this a large group of people sitting here and someone could assume they're all unarmed? If so, I don't want to be one of the ones that are unarmed. I want to be ready. Am I driving late at night by myself? A mother? If so, I'm going to get to my son's house if something goes haywire. Even better than that, I'm going to take a gun with me next time. I'm working that pizza store. I have to do the closing. Well, I can go out and lock that door every night and trust in the goodness of humanity. Or I can be a realist and understand that humans are evil, that they are fallen, and that it's only a matter of time till I go out to close this store up and someone's going to be waiting on me. In that situation, I want to be prepared. And that's what we're talking about. And that's what I'm talking about when I continue to talk about teachers being armed. I just want them to be prepared. It's like Trump said when he spoke to the NRA. You got to give them a chance. Right now, teachers do not have a chance. Except in the few states and districts where they're allowed to be armed. They don't have a chance. That's ridiculous. You've been listening to Bullets with AWR Hawkins. This is a Breitbart News podcast. It downloads to iTunes every Tuesday. If you have an Android, you can get it as well. Have your coworkers subscribe, your family members subscribe, your friends. After they subscribe, have them go back to the main page. You give us some 5-star reviews. We'll take all we can get. We need all we can get. Encourage other freedom-loving Americans to listen to this podcast, all right? It's free. You subscribe to it on your iPhone. It'll just pop up every Tuesday. It's free. You can listen to it on your commute or whatever while you're just sitting at home on the back porch. It's important that we rally around freedom. Keep in mind what Morgan said in the March for Our Rights. Keep in mind that upcoming event. Get your friends to subscribe to this podcast. And until we talk again, just keep in mind, never forget, more guns equal more freedom.
Sonny's Corner with Sonny Johnson.
Everything in hip-hop is not bad. Kanye agreed with us, so let's love him today until he raps tomorrow and you turn your back. Because if you jump off when the fun of the moment is over, then you are in fact making Kanye the token he is accused of being. So please, don't do that. Don't go there.
Sonny's Corner with Sonny Johnson. Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. East on Sirius XM Patriot 125.